It is 34 minutes after the hour across America. You're listening to the one and only Savage Nation. With us now is Donald Trump. And Donald, as you well know, is very much in the mix, but we don't know if he's actually going to run. Donald Trump, welcome back to the Savage Nation. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you, Michael. How are you?
Well, Donald, come on. Ted Cruz has announced that he's running for the presidency. And I'm asking Donald, are you prepared to announce yet?
We're getting very close to doing something, and I think people are going to be very surprised, and I think they're going to be very happy with what I'm going to do. I would say over the next couple of months, over the next few months maybe, but we are looking at it very strongly. I just got back from New Hampshire, which was very successful. I had the largest crowds and the largest everything, and it was great. I had a great time with the people of New Hampshire, and we're going to do something in the not-too-distant future in terms of announcement, Michael.
Donald, let me ask you this. Ted Cruz, I don't know the man. Truthfully, is he electable?
I think it's tough. It's going to be tough. First of all, it's going to be a very crowded field in terms of getting the nomination, but I don't think it's going to be easy for Ted. I like Ted. He's a guy I've met a number of times, and I really do like him. I like his father a lot, too. But it's not going to be an easy one for Ted. He's been a little bit on the controversial side, which I know something about also. But not going to be the easiest person, I would say.
But let's say he gets past the liberals attacking him, which is going to happen to you, too, as you well know. Anyone who runs, they're going to call an extremist after we've had the most extremist administration the world has ever seen in this country. Naturally, they're going to say the opposite is true about anyone who doesn't stand for their liberal agenda. But other than that, Donald, you know, there's something about showmanship, which you know a lot about. Between me and you, I don't think Ted Cruz has the showmanship.
Well, he's a good speaker, and he's a good debater, and he's a smart guy, but he's got some views that a lot of people don't necessarily, care for. I would say this, it's not going to be easy for him, but it's not going to be easy for Hillary either, I suspect, right?
No, she's not. I don't think she's electable anymore. She's guava on the jungle floor. I mean, I'm sorry, her time has passed.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I mean, they certainly think she's going to be the chosen one, and amazingly, the email thing hasn't had too much of an impact, it seems like. And
on who? The 65 million who don't work? I mean, those who work for a living certainly think the email thing is a big deal.
Well, a lot of people think it's a big deal. It seems that the polls are not thinking it's a big deal, which is a little bit surprising to a lot of people, actually.
It could be the fun camps that she came up with. That must have wiped it away. Donald, let me ask you this. Of the entire field, if you don't run, would you back anyone who does run on the Republican side? I mean, is that a given?
Well, look, I guess it's a given because I'm a Republican. I'm a very conservative guy, and I'm a Republican, and I would probably back somebody, but it depends on who it would be.
But Donald, why aren't you sure if you're going to run? What has to happen?
Little time to figure it all out, and I'm in the process of doing it. And this is the time that I'm looking at it most seriously. Last time I thought Mitt would do a better job than he did. He ran, and he didn't run successfully, obviously, and that was an election that should have been won by the Republicans. And something happened. The last month of his campaign, he just stayed inside. He didn't do anything. And
well, he won. Donald, remember he won the first debate, and everyone said it's over.
Right.
Obama looked like the bumbling fool, right. And then all of a sudden, it looked like Mitt took some kind of fall, like in a fight. He didn't fight him.
I don't know, Michael. I don't know. Was that advice? Was that bad advice? Did he choke? I don't know what happened. In golf or in sports, they'll say, well, he couldn't sink the last putt, he choked. I don't know what happened. It was so bad. And in all fairness to Obama, he did horribly in the first debate, like horribly. He couldn't have done worse. He didn't do great in the second debate or the third, but for some reason, Mitt wasn't there. Now, they say that was a plan. He wanted to be very nice and very gentle and everything, but I don't know. I find that hard to believe. I just don't know what happened to him.
You mean he just... that's interesting. You mean he just could have choked up? That's interesting. I never thought of that. Well, Donald, I certainly hope that you run, because I've said in my own book 2 books ago that we need a businessman to take over the country who's also a conservative. We cannot have a crazy college teacher who's never worked for a living, who doesn't know a profit and loss statement, who doesn't understand that you have to have income in order to redistribute it. again, running. We can't have that. What if we had a businessman running the country? Would it be a better country, don't you think?
It would be better, depending on the person, of course, but it would be better and certainly better than what's happening now. And, we have such problems. When you look at Israel, that's one thing with Obama, but he basically doesn't get along with anyone. He's not getting along with Putin. Putin hates him, can't stand him. And it's almost like, you almost say to yourself, who likes him? Look at what's going on with Putin. First time I've ever seen this happen, where Putin is starting to throw out the nuclear stuff, okay? That's the big league. I've never seen that happen with a major power like a Russia. But he's all of a sudden throwing out nuclear alternatives. And I'll tell you what, and part of it is because he can't stand Obama. I think he's frustrated like everybody else. But Obama...
Well, I know someone who likes Obama, Al Sharpton.
Well, I know somebody else, the people of Iran.
You got me there. Pretty good return, Donald.
Well,
Donald, look, I do hope you run. I mean, people say, he's not going to run. He's too big a business guy. He doesn't want to leave all that money behind. But there's a lot of other considerations. You've got a family to consider and the security issues that you would impose upon them. Am I right, Donald?
You have a lot of it's a very hard thing. I've always said, Michael, it's very hard for a very successful person to run for political office, especially for president. And there is, you're giving up a lot, and you're doing a lot, and these politicians, they run. They're all talk, they're no action. They run. That's all they do is run for office. They run. If they win, if they lose. With me, it's a lot, but I'm very, very strongly considering it. And if I did it, I would make America great again. This country can be better than ever before with proper leadership. But you know what? If we have another 4 years like we've been having, if you look at what's gone on, if we have another 4 years like that, it's going to be very, very tough for this country to come back. That I can tell you.
Well, you're a realist. This is the difference. Put aside everything else. Obama is living in an illusion of some fantasy world that never existed. You can call him anything you want. But again, if you have no grounding in a profit and loss statement, how can you run a nation?
Or perhaps he's not competent. I mean, maybe he just doesn't get it. And, a lot of people say he has evil intentions. I actually don't see the evil intention. I think he just doesn't get it. I don't think he's, a very competent person. You look at what's gone on with Obamacare, it's a total catastrophe. By the way, a disaster like you won't believe, and it only really kicks in 2016.
Yeah, it was designed to kick in when a Republican might win to make them look worse.
Obama gets out, and it's going to have to be terminated. It's going to have to.
Donald, if you were commander-in-chief right now, what would you do to stop ISIS?
I wouldn't tell people about it. That's the first thing I'd do. I wouldn't tell people what I do. And in fact, I answer a couple of times. Everyone loved it. They said, "What would you do?" I said, "You know what? If I ever won, I don't want to be on record and say I would go in and do something that would be very, very." Very, very well appreciated by this country. That I can tell you. But I don't talk about it. They talked about it with Pete. They talked about it. Look what's happening over there. We're going in 2 weeks. A couple of weeks ago, they're saying exactly what. We're going in 2 weeks. We're going to drop bombs. We're going in from the left. We're going in from the... They're saying everything. And I'm saying to myself, General Douglas MacArthur would be spinning in his grave right now as they give their game plan. And by the way, now they're having a very hard time. You see what's going on. They think this is going to be an easy little battle. But they said exactly when they're going in. So you know what I tell people? I wouldn't say what I'm doing because if I win, I don't want people to know. I don't want the other side to know. And I don't want, another thing, I don't want them to know when I'm leaving. When they said when they're leaving, the other side just sits back, throws some bombs at us, and sits back and just waits for us to leave. I would not be doing that, believe me. And I think it's a terrible precedent. All I can say is we would win, and it would be decisive.
Donald, talking about the Battle of Tikrit, which should have been over by now and the good guys winning, why didn't Obama, as commander-in-chief, send in the U.S. Air Force to destroy them? I mean, they were sitting there ready to counterattack. He could have taken most of them out. There's no explanation for this, Donald.
How about the fact that Iran is helping and Iran is doing it, and Iran is, by the way, taking over Iraq, which I always said was going to happen. Iran is now taking over Iraq, lock, stock, and oil. They're taking all of the oil. And, the oil they don't have, by the way, ISIS has. Remember when I said a long time ago to you, look, we're in there. It's a mess. At least when you leave, keep the oil, right? You know who has the oil? ISIS and Iran. They have the oil from Iraq.
Donald, you were on 10 years ago, and I wrote a book then called Liberalism is a Mental Disorder. And in that book, I said, I hope I'm wrong, but this plan of Bush's could backfire. and we could see the emergence of Persia all over again. And as you well know, the borders of Iraq were only created in 1948 or 49. There was no Iraq. It was part of ancient Persia. And what I see now is Iran reestablishing the borders of ancient Persia. I think that's what you were saying as well.
Essentially, that's what I'm saying, and they've taken over Iraq, and they're in the process of doing it right now. I mean, they're the ones telling them how to fight. This is what we're going to do. But we're the ones going out and saying how we're going to fight and when we're going to start dropping the bombs.
Yeah.
What direction they're... It's so insane. Look, we have leadership that is so incompetent. It's inconceivable that we could have ended up in a position like this. But as far as Iraq is concerned, Iran is taking over Iraq. That's what's happening. And you know what? Obama likes it that way. I think he likes it that way, actually.
Donald, here's the one thing, Donald. If you become president, I don't want to be your Secretary of State, but I do want to be in your kitchen cabinet under one condition, which is that I get to meet you in Mar-a-Lago and have that great salad with the seafood in it while we're discussing foreign policy. That's all I ask.
It's a great place, Mar-a-Lago. There's no place like it, and we have a lot of fun. And and you're a great guy, and I love your show, and I love your attitude. And you're right, and it's common sense. I mean, what is your attitude? Your attitude is common sense. That's what it is. And
Donald, borders, language, culture. Does that make me a bad guy?
I understand it. It's a tough situation where we have incompetent leadership. They don't know what they're doing, and we're stuck with it, and we're going to be stuck with it for, I guess, at least almost another 2 years. Hard to believe, isn't it, huh?
Hard to believe we can survive it. Donald Trump, thanks a million for being with us on the Savage Nation. Let us know if you run, will you please?
Well, indeed, Michael. You take care of yourself.
Thanks for the time.